Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you with us again on yet another edition of the Platform for Liberty and Democracy's National Transformation Series. And tonight, as with any other night, as with all other nights about today, we're having some of the most sought after guests in our midst. First of all, it is my pleasure to introduce someone I consider an older brother, who has one we also consider more or less as one of us here. He's been with us several times. We've benefited from his wealth of knowledge on quite a lot of topical issues, on some of the key issues in the polity. And it is a huge pleasure this afternoon to welcome him again. And we know that there is always, he has come today. We know that he will be back again very, very soon because he's got very deep insights as with regards to several issues that affect the polity, and he's he has very strong views. He doesn't hold back. In fact, both of our guests for tonight have very strong views, and they hardly hold back on their views. So the first person I'm just going to be introducing is a psychiatrist and the head of Department of Psychiatry, LAUTECH Akinola University of Technology Teaching Hospital in Osogbo, Osun State, Nigeria. He's a public policy commentator. He's a social critic. He's a life coach. He's a mental health advocate. He's an anthropologist. He's a theologian. Actually, he's a qualified minister. Of course, a clergy. And he writes a weekly article in the Punch newspapers. By the way, also he's a serial author. He's got so many books to his name. In fact, very early this morning we had another one of our brickbats on issues all around. I think we spent 4 hours or 3 hours till the early hours of this morning. So it is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce once again Dr. ADEOYE. You're welcome, sir.
Yes, my brother, good evening, and it's a pleasure to be here again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You won't divulge what we argued about in the early hours of this morning for more than 2 hours. And only we can bring it to plight.
Because, like I said, it's something that we can have a public session on because it's a very deep issue. It's like a social, because you could call it socio-economic, even though that's not the real context, but you could call it, and it's something that we can always find the right avenue to discuss. Once again, welcome. Thanks for joining us, sir. So, second, introducing, he's also he's a member of the family as well. He is within. It's either we talk about Marmites, M-A-R-M-I-T is like like a jam or something in the Western world. It's either you like it or you hate it. With this man as well, it's like that. We've come a long way together, and he's someone whose views I respect, even though he will tell you that 70% of the time I don't agree with his views, but I always respect his opinion because when you sit with him, you know that he's got strong basis for it. So he doesn't, when you interrogate his opinions, you do find out eventually that, look, he's got. And one of the things I respect most about him as well is when you pin him down and you say, no, you're wrong on this, and you prove to him that you think he's wrong, and you give valid reasons why you're convinced he's wrong. Once he sees that, I've seen him again and again, not once, not twice, he actually he will tell you, he's wrong on that score. So he's a prosecutor. and of course, he defends complex cases as well before all the courts in Nigeria, up to the Supreme Court, and in front of commercial and constitutional. He carries out commercial and constitutional litigations in all courts as well, and at special tribunals, arbitrations, and mediation centres. He's so many things. He is the principal. He's the head of the. He's got his own chambers, which is called the Stone Waters and Co. It's a limited liability partnership, and he edits and publishes the federal tax law reports in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Barrister Olugbuyiro Akinola, whom we probably call everybody knows him as Olu or Prof. Prof, if you want to unmute yourself, I think I can see you there. So just unmute. You're muted.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Clyde. Good evening to come back again. Thank Tunde for bringing me back again to this program, and I'm sure today is going to be fantastic.
Fantastic.
So, I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Having you in. I mean, so we just go straight into the conversation so that we can have enough time. Dr. Oyewole, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start. I'm going to start with Dr. Olu Akinola. So I'll come second to Dr. ADEOYE Oyewole. So Barrister Olu Akinola, the first thing we're examining today is we call it the so-called, because we're not taking a stance on it, the fulanization agenda. We hear about it all the time. Nowadays, it is not uncommon that everything that happens, even when a known thug in a town attacks someone on the road, we just say the Fulani headsmen and all this and also. But that's not what we're discussing tonight, or necessarily the Fulani headsmen issue. But we're discussing the broader issue of the so-called fulanization agenda. What is it? What is this fulanization agenda? Let me ask you, what is it? Because for me, I've always wondered, what is the scope? What is the definition? And, so let's just even start with the basic definition. Is there, what is this thing they're talking about that fulanization agenda? Prof. Unmute yourself, Prof, and let's... Okay, I think we've lost Prof there. Prof, we can't hear you. I can see that your microphone is on, but we can't hear you. And okay, well, let's go to Dr. ADEOYE Oyewole. And there was a reason why I wanted, because you're one of the greatest advocates of this. In fact, the first time I heard about the fulanization thing, I think I heard it from you. And that's why I wanted us to come to you first, so that we give some basic definition to it. So, Olu, Prof, if you can, I don't know what was wrong with your connection, but if you can just check it, please just cross-check. And once you're on, just let us know. Okay, so Dr. Oyewole, you must have heard of this so-called fulanization agenda. What do you by it? Is it real?
Yes, Mr. Convener, I just like you hear about it, I also hear. I think the first person to alert us, although it's all over the place as rumors, was Obasanjo, I think some 1.5 or 2 years ago. And he said he's aware that there is a fulanization agenda, and it's championed by the presidency under the leadership of but like I hinted you yesterday, I don't believe in it. I think it's just a political noise. I think in a way they're also been unfair to Buhari by talking about a fulanization agenda. My take on it is that everybody who has assumed the leadership of Nigeria has always had an agenda tilted in the direction of his tribe. That statement can be contested. Some have argued that maybe possibly Obasanjo is not immediately in that league. But at the same time, I wouldn't agree, because the way Nigeria is set up, there's a fundamental defect that makes it difficult for anybody who is in Abuja not to have the government or the thrust of resources of the presidency directed in the direction of his tribe. As a matter of fact, like people say, like Oyewole said, we are just a geographical expression, we're not a nation. It means that efforts have not been put in place to galvanize us into a nation. So if we have not been fundamentally achieved nationhood, I think it would be foolhardy of anybody to sleep and wake up in Aso Rock and also will not carry the agenda of his own tribe as a priority. I mean, look at when Jonathan was the president. The same Obasanjo was talking about the fact that Jonathan was already hiring guys who are going to fight wars, and that his plan was to. So that's why I wouldn't take Obasanjo's statement. I think Obasanjo has, I don't know how to describe him as a psychiatrist. I think he has this, possibly one of the ways in which he ascended power. He has remained too grateful to it, or for those people who made it possible. And so it has developed a form of inferiority complex in him that he has had to translate into statesmanship to be able to cover his inability to push his own kinsmen forward. Because with the benefit of hindsight, I think he must be regretting the fact, and I'm saying this with every sense of responsibility, that he did not also push the Yorubas forward properly when he was president. Because some of the steps he's been taking of late shows that if he has the opportunity of going back to Osogbo, he possibly would not do it the way he did it. Because the way our country is structured is such that it is difficult that the elite class will not regress back to their own nation, either for support or for advancement. Because everybody goes to Abuja with certain story of his own nation. How this no nation within the committee of nations that make Nigeria is being badly treated. You are from the east.
Recording in progress.
You are from the southeast. You are from the north, northwest, northeast. I think everybody, every elite also has a reason why somebody from his own nation must be taken care of, and that they have been cheated. Not even the people from South, who have been given a lot of money to develop their area, and it's the elite class who keep embezzling it. On behalf of the people, they also come up with this agenda. So I think we have been a little unfair on Buhari being a Fulani man. I think the only part that made the Fulani, the Buhari one, a little out of.
Okay, I think we lost audio from Dr. Oyewole. Dr. Oyewole.
Out of the Fulani nation. Yes, please.
Yeah, go on. We lost you there for like 30.
Oh, sorry. Now, that the Fulani nationhood is not only limited by the Nigerian boundary, and then we have a huge number coming from Libya, coming from Niger, and all of the other nations. And unfortunately, because of the unrest that occurred in our neighboring countries, put the pressure on Buhari to still be able to accommodate his own fellow kinsmen who are displaced. So I think that's where possibly he got it wrong, and everybody's shouting Fulanization agenda and all of that. I don't think there's anything out of place if you look at the historical background of Nigeria. Look at the first coup. I think a coup took place. The Igbos were in the forefront, isn't it? I think a majority of the casualties were people from some form of part of Nigeria. Do you understand? So as far back as that time, we have been having Igbo agenda. And then, of course, maybe because the Hausas and the Hausa Fulani they dominated the military, and because it's a strategy. While they dominated the strategy, that Oyewole was busy pushing his own children to the university, Oxford, Cambridge, and all of you. Do you understand? So I think it's strategy versus strategy. When you are in a situation where there are many nations and interests, everybody strategizes. And whatever strategy you bring on board determines what you get. And by the time any of us, that's why we also say presidency should not go to the north. It's going to come to the southwest or southeast, whichever, Once that person gets there too, the person also must have learned his own lesson to also Southwesternization agenda. So for me, I rise to exonerate Buhari of the Fulanization agenda. It's only unfortunate that his own kinsmen are displaced and he has them more outside of Nigeria. And those people we call the Fulani herdsmen are not necessarily the native ones that are already, because I still see them when I travel to work. And at times I get scared of them and I see them, these guys, they greet you. Some of them are dressed like us, and others are married and all of that. But they also will bring in their brothers outside. You understand what I'm saying? In sympathy. Maybe the way they also accommodated our own Sunday Igboho in Cotonou, because I think about 5 kings rose, and then we have not been hearing much wahala again. So for me, I think to be fair in Buhari, there is no big deal about the Fulanization of gender. What is the big deal? Is that the elite class needs to come together, evolve a structure that will make it difficult for anybody to come with any tribal or national agenda of his own tribe. And that's what we are failing to do. Thank you very much.
Wow, Dr. Oyewole, you did hint, but I didn't know it was going to go this far. You've actually, because I've always known you as one of the most implacable opponents of Buhari and his government. I've never, ever heard or seen anything from you that's been very, that I've never seen you defend it anyway. So I don't know what has happened to today. But I mean, let's just say the day is still young. So let's go to Prof. Barrister Olugbuyiro Akinola. You heard the points that Dr. ADEOYE made about trying to. He said for him he would have solved the Buhari government and Buhari himself of any quote and unquote, and that the Igbos did Igboization, the Yorubas too, that all the tribes have actually, the elites have actually always tried to work for themselves and their ethnic groups and everything. I heard Fulanization for the first time from you, Prof. And so you were the first person that I heard it from, and I know since then you've won quite a few disciples, and you probably have a few apostles now who have really been trained by you, who are on the field of them. What do you say? How do you, in your own view, can you help us define what you've always shouted about Fulanization? What is it to you? What is the scope? And do you agree with Dr. ADEOYE's points?
Yeah. As Benin, as the point of Dr. ADEOYE position on this Fulanization is, with due respect to him, I beg to disagree with him, because what we are talking about Fulanization is something that has within the historical context of the history of Nigeria itself. So it's not something that just started yesterday. It's not even thing that started with Buhari. The Fulanization agenda is bigger than Buhari himself. The Fulanization agenda, Buhari is just a unit or a facilitator or the current phase of what Fulanization agenda is. Fulanization agenda began since the incursion of the Fulanis into what was then known as Gobiri in Sokoto, that was later called Sokoto. And it started with the conflict between the settlers and the natives in the Hausa land, in the 7 Hausa states. So it's something that is bigger than this. I'm your sister.
Can see everything. Are you as an equal? Are you waiting for young?
Just to define the issue. Within that historical context, the Fulani settlers came in from Futajalo, from Guinea, and settled in Gobri, and later called that place Sokoto. They started, then there was crisis between the settlers, just like we have it today. There was crisis between the settlers and the Fulani coming in from outside the outside lands then, between the Hausa's native and the Fulani settlers. And which led the settlers, of course, won this war. They killed the kings, they killed the kingmakers, and they installed Fulani sultanates in Sokoto. They installed emirate in Kano. They installed seven Hausa states. Emirates were installed. These were not traditional native system of government in those places pre-1804. So we are seeing this thing as historical context. Then beyond that, we saw the spread of these things coming down south. Ilorin was a predominant, until today still a predominant Yoruba township. The crisis between, in the then Oyo Empire, between the Alaafin, who had issues with Afonja, who was his warrior then, and the person at the outpost of the Oyo Empire towards the north. So, who brought fighters? It was Afonja who brought fighters from Sokoto to fight local wars in Yoruba land. Eventually, the crisis led to the creation of an emirate within Ilorin, a predominantly Yoruba township. And we are saying that these things, there is a system of colonization of the native. They will take your language, they take your dressing, they even sign your name, but in blood, they are Fulani. So it's a process. The modern phase of what we call fulanization is what I'm just grappling with, is a situation in which a Fulani man is in government and decided to install and instill his own idea and agenda into the governance structure of the Nigerian government. And these things are not emotional issues, they are stark facts, as all of us can see, either from the security architecture to the financial architecture of the country. We see how it is open. Even former head of state had come in open to even speak against it, things that are unusual. It's unusual for people like General Danjuma to come out and speak against any government of the day. It was unusual for General Obasanjo to speak and write several letters against nepotism. And when we say nepotistic policy and nepotistic appointment, what we are referring to is the fulanization of the process. And for us, when people rise and say, oh, and fulanization is not just about an appointment in government, and that is the recent development. People are not even bothered about appointment before, okay, when my woman is there too, he will appoint, just like the doctor. The doctor is saying that when a Southwesterner gets there, he will also westernize appointment and westernize policy. If it were easy like that, then we will take it. We would like an incursion of settlers coming again into the West, into the issue of cattle, grab lands and then settle there by force. Land is about land settlement. So once the land is acquired, governance structure and the customary, for instance, somebody, if Fulani has in Akure, for instance, movement of residents. That is not in their own culture and all that. And there will be part of culture which will lead to crisis and conflict of interest. So, in places where Oba has been killed before, and they now install emir permanently in those communities in the house of land, city on our soil. And that is why we are doubting these things we have still reading in books. We are experiencing it. By experience, these are things we are experiencing. It's when people are far away from the place of the incident to suit their own prejudice. But we are not prejudicial against the Fulani man. I told him that, look, there was a time I was even looking forward to marry the Fulani as a wife. So it's not about, we are not against the person of Fulani. What we are saying is that we are against somebody who has brought war to our own territory war today, and the person renounced his declaration that the whole of Nigeria belongs to them, and that the estate of their great-grandfather was Madam Fodio. If they renounce all that, apologize to the things they have done in Nigeria, and go back to their own territory, then, I mean, there is no cause to hold any Fulani by the jugular. But in where land belongs to him, Osogbo belongs to him, Ife belongs to him, Ilesha belongs to him, and he can do as he pleases, or any respect to the cultural beliefs of the people in this place, and to the customary practices of land ownership in those places. Then to that extent there will be conflict. We know that where we are is caused by land. Land is a big issue. Today, Israel and Palestine, they are still fighting on land. The carpet and said that, oh, it's because Buhari is there. It has always been, even before Buhari came. I've cited historical context. We were fooled by Buhari because I was part of the people that campaigned for Buhari. Who were fooled. We thought he did not believe in some of these things. We thought he will not queue under the Fulanization and not support or stamp Fulanization agenda. That was why we supported him in 2015. But eventually, we have seen that his policy is reluctant to even come out to address the country whenever we have serious, grievous incidents that is accredited to these Fulani people. So we feel that, okay, if the president is not talking, then his body language is supporting what his kinsmen are doing. And that is why people believe, whether wrongly or rightly, that he is arrowhead of the Fulani struggle within the geographical space called Nigeria. And that is why people believe he is part of the Fulanization agenda. So this thing, he has a role to play as the president of the country. He got votes from the West, he got votes from the North. Even the North we are talking about is not just essentially Fulani. He got the Hausa vote, he got the TV vote, he got the Kanuri vote, he got votes from all parts of the country. Even the Igbos that did not vote overwhelmingly for him, he still got votes from the Southeast. So the question is that the election, by his election, is the father of the nation. The greatest challenge before all of us is the inability of the president to rise as the leader of the whole country and not just the leader of his Fulani people. And that is the tragedy of our current Fulanization cries across the nation.
Thank you so much, Prof. Always as spotlight as usual. It's just so that we give our doctor some time as well You know, today I've been so generous with you. You've been for over about 20 minutes, which is fantastic. Now, I'll be coming back to you later with specific actually giving examples. But let me go back to Dr. ADEOYE. Like I said, tonight I wouldn't know what has come on with Dr. Oyewole, but anybody who knows him will know that he's as anti-Buhari and anti-government and anti, all the things that are happening in our politics as possible. But he would have his reasons as well. So, Dr. Oyewole, you have listened to Barrister Olugbuyiro Akinola. How do you address specifically? Quite, of course, he's gone down the historical route about everything. Apparently, for me, he's not really talking about everything that is happening currently. So, he's looking at the antecedents of the people and he's making projections on them on the base, extrapolating and also putting them together within the context of juxtaposing, arriving at his own thesis for what is. So, Dr. Oyewole, how do you respond? It's good to see your face, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed the historical, historiography of the fulanization agenda. My point is that what he said is not wrong. And I'm saying my interest in society is that the way I look at a human being, and the way I look at a human being, and I take his history, and I say, oh, this person that is mentally ill here at this point, 2021, the reason why he's ill is because when he was young, he was taken to stay with his grandmother while the other children travel abroad. We call it the psychodynamics. And that's what Barrister has told us. He has given us a psychodynamics of how the Fulani people came. What I'm just saying is simple. Buhari was first of all a Fulani man before becoming the president of Nigeria. And the way Nigeria is structured, you understand, is so that it's difficult for you to say that because you are the president of Nigeria, you are going to extricate yourself of your own nationhood. The system as it is put in place now, right from the time of amalgamation, does not permit anybody, except you are foolish, to say that you want to defend the whole of Nigeria without giving some form of leverage for your people. That's what I'm just saying. I mean, it's like, for instance, I'm a Christian. I'm often argue with the fact that why would God choose the Jews? And then later said he will encompass everybody. Do you understand what I'm saying? People who have the African traditional religion, they don't like it, the fact that he chose the Jews. On what ground? Do you get what I'm trying to say? And up to now, the Jews still enjoy some measure of privileges from that interaction. Do you get it? So I think it's only human for anybody who occupies that space. Yes, the historical analysis he gave, we also have it in Yoruba land. I'm from Oyo State. I'm from Okeogun. Oyewole is actually very close to where I come from. I'm from Secretary, and Secretary has the national park there. And one of the places they visit when they come to my town is the old Oyo Empire, the Oyewole. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, as I speak, I'm a prince. I want to be the king. If I want to be the king of my town now, it is Alaafin that will come and crown me. So people got dominion either by, natural settlers, by blood, so-called. Some people also got dominion by fighting through warfare. It's not only the Fulani taking over the Hausas alone. Even in let's look at the Yoruba culture here. Some people became royal. They joined the royal house by conquest. And so I think we must give it to the Fulanis that I think they were quite smart warriors. They are quite smart in the way they go about power. Do you understand what I'm saying? So much so that even the British people advise them correctly that if you want to be part of Because what Buhari is enjoying now, they had already laid the foundation during the successive military years. I don't know whether you're getting my point. So it's not just Buhari. The only problem Buhari had was that the part where his other brothers are unsettled. And you see, when your brothers are unsettled outside of Nigeria, and like I also talked about, so Sunday Igboho, one of the things that saved Sunday Igboho was that we have about 5 strong monarchs in Cotonou. They killed that case. Because, I mean, Obasanjo went there, and they spoke Yoruba to each other there. There's no way, even with Buratai as, what do you call it? Buratai as, maybe it's also Fulani man, I think, as whatever. He couldn't upon it because it's nationhood. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what I'm just saying is that what he has analyzed was what happened in those days. But you know, there's good news. Somebody said we should pray for war. I went to church one day and then they are speaking in tongues. They said, God, we shall not go to war. I sat down. When I said, why are you sitting there and not praying? Are you not afraid of war? I didn't which war? Where are the people that will be fighting war? Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, in those days, people will move from one town, they'll go and face another town. Do you understand? That's not possible in Nigeria of today. What is possible is that if the president is biased, and as I'm saying that bias can be explained, they will roll out the instruments of repression of the government. Do you understand what I'm saying? To checkmate whoever is trying to call for a review of how Nigeria is. And that's what Buhari has been doing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Any other president will do it, possibly in favor of his own nation. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, God at the end, they'll say, okay, the Fulanis are now near, they are now Jeba. Then let's go and camp around the Iloni. Oh, yeah, do you have gone? I don't know whether you're getting what I'm saying. We will be having skirmishes of some rebellion, some protest here and there, and then there will be deployment of the instruments of government to repress. We're not going to be fighting like they used to fight. And good news, our children are not as tribalistic as we are. That's the truth. All these people are taking over, also taking over this thing. The future of Nigeria is such that this thing will die a natural death. My worry is the elite class. They have ways of joining together in Abuja, meeting together, playing the script of their own nations to negotiate their own selfish gains at the expense of the nation they even represent. I mean, look at the Niger Delta. They collected a lot of money on behalf of their people, and they keep spending the money. Look at what this man is doing. This Apabio. So what I'm saying is that the Fulanization agenda, yes, there's that historical background. Even in Yoruba land, there is a lot of historical anecdotes where we allow you to come and crown me, I will not crown me. And they say, you conquer the father, you conquer your father, carry your crown, and took it away. Since that time, what the heck, please? Because if I become the Oba of my town, I will ban a lot of people from coming to my territory. Do you understand what I'm saying? And our children are going to do all those kind of things with time. What the elite just need to do is to redefine what nationhood is all about, and then exchange that power in the presidency, and then the checks and balances in the National Assembly. The people in the National Assembly are from nations. What are they doing? Why are they allowing these excesses? But you see, because of what they will eat, because of the selfishness of the elite class, they don't care about the nations they represent. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is their own selfishness. So they don't care about whether Fulani headsmen are killing people up and down. Look at what our governors are doing now, passing the anti-open grazing laws. Do you understand? They're also contesting the VAT laws, which is fantastic. This is what they should have done long years ago. Do you understand what I'm saying? This will lead to a discussion. The judiciary, all of them are not also staffed by Fulanis. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are some of our own people there too. Lawyers, people in the National Assembly are not wholesomely from their Fulani heritage. After all, why is it that the Fulanis and the Hausas are living together? Why do some people from Oyo State who are not the same, how are they trying to live together? We have Ife Amudakeke. We have, it's first time you will see Esauke, Esaudo. Do you understand what I'm saying? The same people in OK. They are different people in Odo. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are a lot of stories, a lot of historical anecdotes, just like my barrister has analyzed all over the places. What we need to do is to evolve an egalitarian system of government where you come from is not the one. You have it in the UK, my brother. You have the Scotsman, yes, the Scots, you have the English, you have the other one. You understand what I'm saying? There was one that was, I think, a Scottish. I know when they call you a Scotsman, there's a way they also look down on them. I hope not see today. They also carry that complex. So, but they have evolved a system of government that makes it difficult for anybody to be so dehumanized. So for us, I think it's the elite class we should quarrel with, we should fight. Whether they are from my place, whether they are from the north or whatever, because they are the people in Abuja who keep negotiating for selfish ends at the expense of the nations they represent. So I quite commend the historical analysis. That is not possible. The Fulani cannot take over Yoruba land again. It's not possible. Also, it's just the political leaders who are using it. As soon as, let me tell you, as soon as Buhari goes in 20, whatever, do you understand what I'm saying? All these Fulani headsmen, you won't hear it again. No prayers, nothing. I'll tell you that you won't hear it again. Let the Yoruba man become president, or let somebody from the southeast. So I'm not bothered. I don't even pray about it because there's no war. It is just a man who is there, who is from a particular tribe, and is biased about it. And it is legitimately biased. Although we expect that the fact that he is older and he has been in power before should have risen to some form of statesmanship, not just a president of the country, just like Obasanjo would try to be, and put our country on a stable ground. But I also think it's under some form of pressure from his own members of his own nation, especially those that are outside of the country. I mean, look at some of the infrastructure going to the Republic. Do you understand what I'm saying? And everyone, they said, don't you know that I said forward and so direct. So you want me to cut off from them? Or do you think if somebody who is a Yoruba man becomes president again, they will not take care of all those Obas in Kuton? You understand what I'm saying? We have to do some roads, some ways we could turn to, and find a way to bring them here. For me, that's my stake, and that's how I look at it. I'm not playing against any Fulani. There's nothing Fulanization here. It's just a tool of the elite class to bargain for power and to rest for power. Do you understand what I'm saying? For non-selfish ends. Although we are the receiving end all the time. That's the unfortunate quarrel with them. Don't let them be able to move freely in our places. Those are the people we should fight. Unfortunately, when they come with some dollars and some naira, they also buy us. Maybe because when we become so poor and we have nothing to eat, they get the better part of us. So for me, that's what I see happening. Thank you so much.
Commander, we can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself, sir.
Apologize. Thank you so much. Sorry, I keep getting corrected about this all the time because I mute myself as well whilst the speakers are on. So I quite appreciate your views there, Dr. ADEOYE. Thank you so much. I'm only getting to know today that you're actually a prince from near Oyewole and Secretary.
Yes, this. I'm about that you're speaking to like this.
Oh.
And Allah comes from Oyo to come and give me crown. When my forefathers fought, they fought Afoja. They stopped him. They didn't run to Oyo. The Allah ran to Oyo, away from Ilorin. Secretary is very close to Ilorin. My own forefathers stopped Alimi from getting into Yoruba land. Now, I'm supposed to now go to Oyo for the man to come and crown me. Who does that? If I become the Obalufon, I'm going to crown myself, construct my own crown, and get a few persons to crown me. And that's all. And I'll break the issue from
that. Would be legit. But within the context of the chiefs and kings, is it act or what do they call it? The law. That's I'm done. But it's something I'm willing to interrogate in case of our viewers out there want to actually dig a bit more into that. And also, because Sunday Igboho is from that axis of from Okiogun axis as well, I am keen to also dig a bit deeper into the link between the Secretary people and have you not heard anything from that area in terms of the activities of Sunday Igboho and everything, the basis for them, or was it also political, like kind of trying to suggest that once, and thank you for that perspective because you reminded us that during the time of President Goodluck Jonathan, he was also, I do remember that people like Nasir Rufai, and Olusegun Obasanjo, and they said he had about 100 and that they were going to wage, his ethnic group was going to wage a war against Nigerian people and everything. So it was like a, you know, like it's called, it reminds me of the Cold War, you know, having Khrushchev on one side and having Ronald Reagan on the other side. And so those are, and of course you brought it to this current dispensation, that is the same thing that once Buhari goes, and that basically all these things will die naturally. Prof, you have heard him, and he has tried to establish, like I just I mentioned, that there is no fulanization agenda, irrespective of, you know, all the things going on currently. Can you give us specific examples, you know, because now we need to go back on this argument. Like I said, you are the first person that I heard for the first time ever, and I think, you know, you like I said, you watch the word, yeah, but you used it first, as far as I know. So, can you give us a few, you know, concrete examples, concrete points to back up this position of yours? And thank you, Shehu Olabinton. I quite a few things on the chat, you know, and user PC, I don't know who that is. I suspect that is Honorable Blessing from your state. But Prof, over to you. You're muted, Prof. Mute yourself.
So we don't need to beat about the bush about examples of fulanization. When we say there's fulanization, I've traced.
Need to be able to, you know, people are listening to us.
Yes, I know. I'll just wait now. Okay. I said the end of fulanization is take land and establish authority over that land. The example that is clear to everybody happens in Ilani. That is more than, I can say, more than 150 years ago that has happened, and is in existence till today. Also, in the recent time, we've seen a spate of establishing a sort of emirate they call maybe Cherokee Fulani that would dress like a turban emir within Lagos territory. It has happened in Lagos. It has happened in some township and cities of the. We have it in Ibadan. They have it in Ibadan now. So,
sorry, bro. You know, I've given you a doctor quite. I'm sorry. After this, I'll try not to interrupt. I'm so sorry. It's just to point out something. If you're saying that, is that not a counter argument that Akure is the Igbo of this?
No. Guys, no. The SND that came to Akure was demystified the day he entered this palace. They removed the beans.
You know, the worst I'm coming. I'm just making. If you remember, in Akure about 5 years or so ago, it got so bad that the king of the town threatened. In fact, they actually had to summon the youth of the town against Indigo of Akure town. So if there is Indigos all over these places, is there not an argument as well for the Cherokee Fulani or Cherokee Sawa?
Can I counter this? If you have association of settlers or of other indigenous from other places in your community, and they have association, they have a school, they have their president, there will be no talk against this because Yoruba to have theirs even in London and every other place. So, but what we are saying is to crystallize another traditional institution within the enclave of another man's territory is what we are against. The Indigo that you talk about in Akure, it was the bills and all the insignias of office that he had that day had to be removed from him. In fact, he was stripped naked in the Deji's palace in Akure because of some of this issue I'm talking about. So the locals, the communities are not accepting. They are not accepting this form of people from outside their community establishing another traditional institution in their community. What we are saying is different from association of Fulanis or outsiders coming together and they have their Cherokee or whoever is their head. We don't have problem with that. That happens everywhere. But to now turban anemia, in the recent time, it happened in Edo State that I'm not sure whether that event took place, but there was a proposed turban of another emir or a sultan within Benin. And the traditional institution in Benin had to speak out. The youth had to speak out. The government of Edo State had to speak out. And those are evidence of what we are talking about. People aiming to take our land. And the issue of the land takeover, I've cited an example to you, that even my own land that I bought in Akure, I was there to begin survey and construction. I met a tent of Fulani. I didn't sell it to them. I did not lease it to them. But yet, they lay claim to some of this land. So these are evidence of Fulanization that we are talking about. It will have been dealt with as private to private, what we call in law trespass. But if you are unable to do so, and the police system is unable to do so, and these settlers have the back of government. We've had speeches and press releases coming from the presidency telling the whole country that those land belong to everybody in Nigeria and that nobody can take the land away from them. To that extent, there is an official declaration of Fulanization by the federal government of Nigeria. It is clear. There are several press releases that has come out from the presidency on some of these issues. When people cry that some people took over land in Oyo State, some people took over land in Ondo State, you do not even get reaction first from the spokesman of the president than from the Mayor itself, coming out to say that no, this land, they have the fundamental right of women, they have the fundamental right to home property, and that they have the fundamental right, and that the land in, and there is this notorious concept of the grazing route that even up to now, the government of Nigeria believes there is grazing route, and that the grazing route within our territory should be preserved for the Fulanis. So, to that extent, there is, in fact, most of the bills that have been brought to the National Assembly by the current government are things aimed, some of the bills are things aimed towards establishing Fulani communities within Yoruba, Igbo, Ido, and the other ethnic communities within the country. We've heard about the Ruga plan of the government, the Ruga Act, which was struck down. We've heard about the water, the inland water basin, whatever act that wants to give all the authority of the water bodies within the territory of Nigeria to the federal government. So, and the undertone in some of these legislations that have been pushed by the federal government. So, these are examples of acts and actions aimed at Fulanizing the country. You may not agree with me. You may say, oh, where is everything there? But we've been in this country and we know how these things run. From our experience, these are how their forefathers are taking over the whole Hausa land. Today, when you look at Hausa land, the traditional institution in Hausa land is Fulani. The political institution in Hausa land is Fulani. The spiritual institution in Hausa land is Fulani. Even the institution in Hausa land is headed by the Fulani. So we know that this Fulanization concept is real. Is real. We cannot live in the denial of it. If we deny it, not deny the existence of a Fulanization of their territory. The political institution today in Ilorin, the traditional institution, is headed by Fulani in a predominantly Yoruba community. I'm sure Ilorin is not a Fulani word, it's a Yoruba word. These are examples of Fulanization. This government has been accused of, one of the things that this government has been accused of is pandering towards Fulani interest. In terms of his appointment, in terms of his policy, you can see the nepotistic agenda being tilting towards a Fulani, creating a space for Fulani within the Nigerian society. We are not saying nobody is barring a space for Fulani in Nigerian society, but everybody should come together in a federal, in a federal state and compete for the opportunity that is available, not to create a legal obstacle for other people where you give your home people a easy way to get the opportunities that is available within the Nigerian Federation. So this idea is very painful. When people say that, why are we profiling criminals with Fulani? I mean, people who are victims of these things know the people they see. When I got to my land and I said I meant Fulani people there, I know the reason. If they are Ibira, I would have said they are Ibira people. If they are Yoruba people, if they are Akure people, I would have said these are Akure people that are on my land. So, but why am I talking about Fulani in Akure and some people in Igbo town? They are talking about Fulani too. And when you move to Kyogun, you are hearing the same thing. Even in Igbo, why are we not saying, okay, TV here, Fulani there, outside there? So we must connect this missing link. We must connect these dots. And the truth is that it is clear, patently clear to every one of us where the agenda of this man called Buhari is tilted at the end of the day. The press releases coming from the presidency whenever there is a Fulani attack, whether in the Benue Valley or in the Plateau Jos or even in the South, it does not leave anybody in doubt that this government is the mouth organ or is the mouth speaker of Fulani. Till today, the current president of Nigeria is the grand patron of the Mediation, and all of us know what Mediation is to the Fulani agenda. So it's not difficult for us to see that there is a Fulani agenda by this country, by this current government, by this current leader called Buhari. So that is unfortunate. We were all part of, in the beginning of his journey into the presidency, we were all part of it. I was part of it since not just 2015, but from 2004. I had joined ANPP in a predominantly AD community because of Buhari. And I worked for CPC in 2011. I was presidential returning officer. I'm saying it on the here now. You can check the record for CPC in Ondo State. I was working for Buhari in Ondo State in 2011. In 2014, I was working for a Buhari president in APC in Ondo State. So it's very sad when you now succeeded in establishing or installing somebody you have wanted to become president for like 12 years, for a decade, and you now get to the presidency, and all the agenda of the manifesto of APC that we campaign with right, left, and center of this country were shredded into the dustbin, and new agendas started surfacing, and new tendencies started forming the the direction of government, and you come with questions that nobody is ready to answer within the government space. So that is, we have a Fulani agenda. Is clear to all of us, except we are trying to deny the fact that the president's silence, the president's spokesman press releases supporting Fulani, supporting the takeover of land, supporting several things that has been done, whether in the West or in Benue Valley or in the Just Plateau. That those things are right. And we have to condemn everything as Fulanization. And they are very, very can succeed under the platform of an ethnic agenda. We cannot even say urbanization. Urbanization cannot lead Nigeria to anywhere. Urbanization cannot lead Nigeria to anywhere. To stop Fulanization in Nigeria, I am not fighting so that Yoruba will take over and dominate the Fulanis. No, we are not ready. We are not fighting to dominate anybody. But what we are saying is that we should create a space for common competition between all tribes, between all natives, between all nationalities within this geographical space called Nigeria. And that if this become impossible, then to return to Israel. That has been our position all along. Hello, I can't hear you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. I'm guilty of that. Thank you so much, Prof. As usual, those were very, very deep, and I know you don't hold back. But I'm getting this view that the premises that have helped you, enabled you arrive at the Fulanization thing, they seem to be more historical than contemporary. So I am going to ask, for example, but of course I'm also, whilst we wait for Dr. Oyewole to rejoin and go on to the next topic, I'm going to take if there are questions or comments from the in-house panelists, I'm going to ask them straight away. But it's just, for example, saying, you know what, when Barrister Olu Akinola, the last Olu Akinola that I used to know was an economist. He cannot be a lawyer. For him to claim to be a lawyer, he must be a fraudster. On that basis, I've used your historical existence or definitions to conclude, who you are at the current moment. So isn't it just 2 minutes because Dr. Oyewole has rejoined? Isn't it faulty that you are actually dwelling more on the historical side of the invasion of Ilori and all these things and everything, and not really making too many pointing to contemporary examples? I'm just asking, just 2 minutes.
That history was there when many of us joined the AMPP to work for Buhari. That history was there when we joined in 2011 to work for CPC Buhari. That history was there when we joined him to form APC and work for his presidency in 2014 to 2015. We are not just guided by history. We are also guided by the contemporary events of army of Fulani wielding guns on our territory, carving places for themselves in our forest. By the last intelligence report available to me, across Southwest, we have Iga Fulani like 1,450. Iga Fulani. I saw one on my land myself. I sighted one between the road between Itaubulu and Akure. That's why I have about 22 plots of land. I met their tent there. One of Iga Fulani. And what is the use of Iga Fulani in this discourse? When you go to a place, you have the right, if it's your land, if you bought land, you have the right to build, you have the right to put a hut or a settlement there. But when you take a land that does not belong to you, with force of arm, you are armed to the teeth, and you proclaim that place as your settlement. There is a signal that made us remember what had happened in the past. So when we have those contemporary examples, we now remember this thing as it happened before. How did it happen before? What was the result of what happened before? To the extent that Ilorin, Sokoto, Kano were the results of similar settlers coming in that similar fashion, without buying land, without begging for a space of land, just with a force of arm, taking a portion of your land and settle there by force. And eventually killing king on those lands, killing kingmakers and establishing a emirate there.
We need you to...
We are seeing similar things of what had happened in the past happening now in our contemporary time. And that is why we are touting. That is why we are touting that this is a trend, and is a trend that is well too known by what has happened in our historical past, and that we should not allow it to repeat itself. That is just the issue.
Thank you so much. Dr. Oyewole, I welcome you back. We lost you for quite a while. Doctor, do you want to respond to this, Dr. Oyewole? Because we need to go to the next topic. Doctor, do you want to
No response again. I understand my comrade's apprehension. I would just like to pull his leg. On what ground did he say Buhari should come and be our president in the first instance then? If he was afraid of the FULANISATION agenda. I think it's an elite thing. The elites are scared. The possibility of, not the elites, the middle class and the other and the masses. Do you understand what I'm saying? Of the implications of their lands being run over. First, what do you call them? Comrade?
No,
what do you call those guys that migrate up and down? They come to your compound. What do you call those guys in the UK who just migrate all over the place?
Yeah.
Is it the gypsies?
Gypsies.
Yes. They are nomads.
And nomads, gypsies.
You understand what I'm saying? Takes some time before people dispatch them. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I see the Fulanis. However, they are very skillful at entering the land, just like the Igbos do. There are times they have also accused the Igbos because they have more money than the natives, sleeping with other people's wives, collecting the other people's wives because they have more money. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's no way Igbo man. In fact, in Osogbo here now, they are also alleging that they are buying almost all properties all over the place. And the natives are also holding meeting. We have to chase them out. If you have a car now in Osogbo, it will be difficult for you to have a spare part because they are not allowing the Igbos to sell. And the Yorubas that are selling are not as good as the Igbos. So they chase them inside the bush. The bush that they are now, the place is already town. They bought almost a whole section of the town. That's the urbanization agenda. I don't know whether you're getting what I'm saying. What we need is a leadership that is well thought out. It is the elite class I'm angry about. And the time I used to argue against Buhari was when I saw him as an elite class trying to take advantage of us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that, sir. Now that you're back, I just want to quickly take advantage of the good network. So we go straight into the next topic for discussion tonight. And of course, please, our panelists, I want you to, all of you on the panel, if you have any questions tonight, all I want you to do is just simply indicate by using the hand tool. Just raise up your hands so that I know in advance how many of you have comments or questions, or requests for clarifications, whatever it is. Please just use the hand tool to raise up your hand. All those of you who are on our in-house panel, and we're going to try to take one or two questions from social media as well. We've had more like cases of kudos on social media thus far, so that's why I've not really indicated anything to the sort of taking anything from there. So, of course, tonight we're also looking recent events in the polity. They're very interesting. Things are getting more interesting every day. Of course, we know Nyesom Wike for who he is. He's very bombastic, and at times he tries to talk, even give himself more power than he obviously has under the constitution. Of course, but we know that the VAT issue, it has started a new move, sort of. All of a sudden, Rivers State has enacted the VAT law, and it's a good thing that I know Dr. Oyewole is very versed in this topic, and Dr. Barrister Oyewole Akinola as well. He also does commercial litigation, so we're very much in good company. Don't worry, I'm just going to so that we know. Okay, so I'll remove it from the spotlight. Barrister Oyewole Akinola, I can see that you're communing with the gods there, So, and then now the River State's House of Assembly enacted the law to start the collection of VAT within the states, and of course, the federal government went back to the court in Rivers. The Federal High Court in Rivers threw out the federal government's request for stay of execution. And then Lagos State government, the Lagos State House of Assembly has enacted its own VAT collection law. The Lagos State government even said, you know what? The current VAT regime is to the extent of 7.5% across board, but that small businesses are exempt. But Lagos State government has drafted its own law and says, well, we're reducing it from 7.5% to 6%, but that no business is exempt. No, small businesses are not exempt from it, but it's a reduced taxation threshold. But of course, 2 days or thereabout back, the federal, the appeals courts actually kind of asked them to maintain the status quo, which some senior advocates today have been reading about. Some senior advocates trying to give different explanation of that, and trying to say, you know what, since those states had already started the process of collecting VAT internally, that the maintenance of status quo does not actually apply to them. It's all muddled up. But basically, as well, is the key issue that quite a lot of the states in the north are against this. And one of the things the governor of Rivers State said, Nyesom Wike, was that some of these states, they destroy alcoholic beverages. Now, we're not saying they're good or bad. It's none of our business implied. It's people's rights to live their lives as they please. But quite a lot of these states, usually with the ISBA police operating in various states in the north, they destroy all these things. But the southern states collect VAT on them. And this VAT is shared equally, well shared across the federation. So these are some of the argument. So we're talking about fiscal federalism today, examining the call for true fiscal federalism in light of the VAT imbroglio. Dr. Oyewole, let me start with you, sir. Since we started the other conversation with Barrister Oyewole Akinola, what is your take on this? What is really happening? Is this a good development for Nigeria, or is it negative? Or how can Nigerians tap into it? Or do we have to rise and say no to it? Generally, how can we attain true fiscal federalism in Nigeria? Dr. Oyewole, over to you, sir. Dr. Oyewole, unmute yourself, sir. Okay, we're not getting any sound from your end, so I'm going to go to Barrister Oyewole Akinola. Barrister Oyewole Akinola, sorry, we've got to come to you on this. Fortunately, you're a very senior solicitor in Nigeria, so you would have intimate understanding of this. And like I mentioned earlier, you also do commercial litigation, so you're very versed in the area of commercial law. So, what is your take on all this? This issue of fiscal federalism, driven from these fights from Lagos, and of course, as well. And how do we? What is in it for Nigerians, and how can we attain?
The issue of fiscal federalism is not a new topic. I think in one of our discussions here, I've had the opportunity of talking about fiscal federalism. In fact, some people shot me down then that there's nothing like fiscal federalism, and they were asking for my authority, and I said, well, apart from political textbook that I read before, one of the things that Oyewole wrote much about in Thoughts on Constitution, Thoughts on the People's Constitution, and Strategies of the People's Republic, is about fiscal federalism. And what fiscal federalism is actually trying to say is to restore Nigeria back to what was negotiated in 1960. In a situation in which the constituent state is able to generate from their resources and only pay an agreed percentage to the center. You derive from, and you use it where it is derived from, but you pay something to the central to keep the common issues that are the exclusive legislative competence of the federal government. That is what all fiscal federalism thing is talking about. Then coming to the issue of the VAT, fortunately too, the VAT issue is only that this is generating more heat than it should. In October 2019, there was a case brought out by the hoteliers, the Association of the Hoteliers and Managers of Restaurants in Lagos State, in which they challenged the Attorney General of the Federation on VAT, specifically VAT and consumption tax, that they are not liable to pay VAT to federal government when Lagos State government is already charging them consumption tax on it, and that the federal government does not have power constitutionally to charge VAT. The case was decided against the federal government. In fact, certain section of VAT Act, the Section 1 that levy VAT, the Section 4 that levy the rate of VAT, all those sections were struck out in court. Of course, that has gone on appeal, and you know how far our appeal can go in Nigeria. So it's not yet decided. The final word has not been heard from the Apex Court on the matter. Recently too, Emmanuel Okala in Port Harcourt went and challenged the authority of the FRS to charge VAT, and that in fact the whole act is unconstitutional, is null and void, and that to the extent that among the revenue generating power of the federal government, as listed in the second schedule under the legislative list, the exclusive legislative list of the federal government, section item 16. Item 16 talk about stamp duty. It's custom and exercise duties. Sorry. Item 25 also talk about stamp duty. Then we have item 59 and 58 that also talk about profit comes and that those are the things the federal government can actually legislate upon. That the idea of legislating on VAT is unknown to law, is unconstitutional, is null and void. And he had a day in court, and he won against FRS. And FRS has gone on appeal in that case also. Before this new case, that the AG Rivers had to go to court to now specifically challenge the power of the FRS to tax and collect VAT within River State, as it were. So for me, I saw it coming as a tax practitioner and as somebody who regularly edits a tax law report. So I saw it coming because there is a chain of events. It's not just today. It's just generating a lot of noise today, but it has been in the pipe because the federal government tried to muscle the state just as the way the state is trying to muscle the local government. So the old experiment called Nigeria, it has been turned into a jungle of impunities in which you have legislative impunity. So what it means now is that the VAT Act is a legislative impunity. It has no basis in the 1999 Constitution as amended. You can see a letter brought out by Governor Wike of Rivers State saying that they are now writing the National Assembly to amend the Constitution to give power to the federal government to be able to legislate on VAT. But the question is that can the federal government amend the Constitution alone? The National Assembly cannot amend the Constitution alone. The power to amend the Constitution in Section 9 of the Constitution gave 50% of that power to the 2/3 of the House of Assembly of States across the federation. So even if all the northern states that are 19 comes together and say, oh, we want amendment, they still need 5 states from the south to make 24, which will now be 2/3 of the House of Assembly of States. Must also pass a law in support of that amendment. So without that, the Constitution cannot be amended. Constitution is not a law that can be amended by the fiat of the executive power. The journey of amending a Constitution is different from the journey of making the lawmaking duties of the National Assembly, as it were. So we are gradually moving towards a sort of constitutional crisis because all these things has implication at the end of the day. When you look at Section 40 of the VAT Act, it talks about distribution of these VAT revenues coming from different states. 15% goes to federal government. When federal government will collect 100%, return 50% into the federal government account, which is different from the federation account. So from the federation account, 50% go to all the states to be shared in accordance with the geographical proportion. This means ordinarily that Kano will take more than Lagos State that generates most of the VAT. Kano, the old Kano, as we know it, when Lagos was 20 local government, that old Kano has given back to another state. And each of these states is having, Kano itself has 45. The other state is in Jigawa. I don't know how many local government that one has, but I know it's not less than 20. So by the time you add it together, so the entitlement to VAT by the whole Kano state is like almost 4 times the entitlement of Lagos that generates more. Lagos and River generates like 80% of the total VAT earnings of the federal government. And that is how ridiculous it is. In some of these places, Isba police, we ban consumption of alcohol, consumption of beer, consumption of that, consumption of this, consumption of that. But these are some of the places where VAT is generated. So the moral question is that, which I agree with Wiki on this issue. I don't agree with Wiki on most things, but on this issue I agree with him. The moral question that is pointing to the north is that, should you eat a cake that is baked with beer? It's a moral question. And in the coming days, we will try to look at how the response, how this is responded to by the northern political class. But the battle has been set. The issue of the Court of Appeal position on the status quo, antebellum, the question is that what is the status quo? The status quo is the position before the filing of the notice of appeal by the FRS. And that position is clear. The court, a federal high court at that, not even a state high court, is still a federal high court sitting in Port Harcourt, has declared that the federal government has no power to charge and collect VAT, and that it is the legislative competence of the state to actually make law and charge and collect VAT. And quickly, Rivers State House of Assembly has enacted a VAT bill, and the governor has signed it into law. So that means before the filing of that appeal, the status quo now is that Rivers continue to collect VAT until the appeal is decided, one way or the other. Because that is the status quo. The status of the code, whenever FRS collect VAT, has been toppled by the court judgment, by the position of that court. And that judgment stands until the appeal either validate it or overturn it. So the status quo antebellum position is the position of the court in Port Harcourt, saying that the federal government lacks power, legislative competence to enact VAT Act and to tax and collect VAT or any other consumption tax. That is a serious, that has serious implication on even some other taxes that they are collecting. Any consumption tax, because the idea of a withholding tax is a consumption tax. You consume, you offer service, the person consuming it, retain. If it's individual, you retain 5%. If it's company, you retain 10%. That's what we call withholding tax in contracts. So, and is huge revenue coming to the federal government from withholding tax. So there are different headings of tax like that has been annulled by that judgment. And that becomes the status quo antebellum until overturned by the Court of Appeal or validated by the Court of Appeal, as the case may be. So that is the position today. For me, it is a way of judicially winning the battle of physical federalism. We may not be there yet, because the federal government is still sitting, it's a fat cat that is still sitting on huge revenues coming from petroleum profit tax, coming from the thing is that apart from the federal government, what that means is that apart from the federal government selling the crude oil found in the Niger Delta, it still collects huge tax from the operators in the oil and gas sector in the upstream, which we call the PPT, the petroleum profit tax. So that there is still a question mark on that. It's still a lot of battle ahead. Though the Constitution gives power to charge that, but to the extent of the fight for derivation, to the extent of the fight for physical federalism and restructuring by the state actors, then we can still see a lot of battle ahead in that respect. The federal government is still sitting on company income tax, CITA, which charges about 30% of declared earned profit of companies operating in Nigeria. And most of these companies are either in the western zone of Ibadan, Ogun, Lagos, axis, or in the Niger Delta zone of Port Harcourt, Akwa Ibom, axis. That's where you have over 60 to 70% of this company operating. So, and which part of this money goes to federal government? VAT is even easy. Before, how much is the federal government getting from VAT? Whatever federal government collects from VAT before, they only, by law, by section 40 of VAT Act, they are only entitled to 15% of it. By section 40, subsection 1A, they are only entitled to 15%. But what of the company income tax that the federal government is entitled to 100%, or PPTA that is entitled to 100%? So so there are clear battle ahead on fiscal federalism, and I think only maybe the restructuring will be fought and won in the courtroom in this season, and I'm just waiting and watching what is going to happen. But the issue is that our clamoring for restructuring is beyond physical federalism. Is a major issue, but is even beyond physical federalism. So, and that is just it. There is people that are asking for restructuring, are asking for a big shift in the direction of use of power within the federation. The idea of state police, the idea of decongesting the second schedule of the Constitution, where we have almost about 60-something items for the federal government alone to legislate within the federal government and legislative competence. So the restructuring is actually aimed at the second schedule of the Constitution to decongest the exclusive legislative list, so that you can have more issues in which the states can actually legislate, and which I agree to some of these things. When you look at the list, you find out that there are some issues. You ask yourself, why is federal government want to do this exclusively? For instance, okay, in the whole matter, we have 68 items. 68 items. You find out, why does the federal government want to exclusively deal with the issue of business name registration in the 21st century? You find out, why does the federal government want to exclusively regulate tourist traffic in the 21st century? We find out why I can understand passport and visa. I can understand nuclear energy. But you find out, why does the federal government want to legislate exclusively on prison? In a federal system, the state should have its own court and should also have its own prison. So you find out, why does the federal government of Nigeria alone want to legislate on things like public holiday? And a lot of other issues. Insurance. Why should insurance be an exclusive legislative list of the federal government? Why can states not legislate on intolerable interest of their own citizen? Why does the federal government want to exclusively legislate on bankruptcy and insolvency? In most countries of federal country, bankruptcy and insolvency are state matter. You just confuse and compound the business of the federal government. When we have issue of security, we have issues of the economy, we have issue of all these things that are there that should actually gain the attention of the federal government to work on. we are talking about the issue of there are issues that you will give readily to. When we talk of arms and ammunition, even that too, arms and ammunition, why should it be on the exclusive list of the federal government? Why can't states be able to legislate on some light arms? We are not talking about big heavy arm equipment and whatever that the military use, but on some light arms. Why can't a Lagos state, Ondo state, a Nasarawa state, a Cross River state legislate on such issue? So these are some of the issues that has compounded and worsening the problem of our own federal system. You have the matters such as pension and gratuity on the federal list, police and government security services on exclusively on federal list, posts and telegram and telephone on federal list. So the list is too compounded. Is too compounded. It needs to be decongested, and I think that is the direction of our compatriots that are actually asking for devolution of power to the states, asking for restructuring of the triangle of powers within the federation. That is state to have more power and more control to be able, because these are the people that deals with the citizen directly, the state and the local government. And the state too, there should be that is one of the things all of us need to be fighting for. Because when you look at the pages of the Constitution, it's as if local government enjoys a minimum mention, a tangential mention within our Constitution. It's on the fourth schedule that they just listed the functions of the local government. So local government are not properly created, as it were, by the Constitution. So we should look for a more legislative space for local government within our Constitution, so that the state government will not have the kind of power that they currently wield to muscle down and take over the control of local government, as it were. So we have local government and municipal authority that should function and exclusively take over the residual issues of primary school education, primary health care, etc. Should not be the preoccupation of state government. So these are my initial observation and summation.
Wow. Dr. Oyewole came in and we lost him again. His connection has been very poor. But Barrister Olugbuyiro Akinola, it's been a privilege having you here. In fact, when we're thinking of these topics, it didn't even come to mind that you're actually a barrister at law. So, but helping us, what you've done today is you've actually gone really deep. You've brought out the law. You've gone deep into everything. You've also given a very wonderful interpretation. You've helped us to interpret what the latest judgment of the appeal court actually means. And I just can't appreciate you enough. I thank Dr. Oyewole as well. It's been a very brilliant night with you. And I'm just going to go to our panelists now, because we want to, of course, Barrister Olugbuyiro Akinola, those of you who are watching at home, and Dr. Oyewole, if you have quite a few things to mention, you can be sure that we'll bring them back. So we always do that anyway with some of our very prime guests. So I'm just going to go to our panelists for today. I'll take you off the spotlight for a while, Dr. Barrister Olu, so that you can at least take care of yourself for a while, until we bring you. So I'm just going to go to our panelists right now, and I can already see that Comrade Olugbuyiro actually raised his hand, and I'm going to be coming to you now, Comrade Olugbuyiro. So just go on with your question or comments, or just unmute yourself and go on. Comrade, just unmute yourself. I can see Comrade Jibowen as well. Can see your hand up, but let's try to Comrade. Okay, let's see if that works. I'll try to unmute you from here. Any luck? Okay. I think.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody. Hello.
Yeah, good evening. We can hear you now.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, the question I wanted to ask was when one of the guest speakers said that the fulanization agenda, whatever we fade away immediately after Buhari left office. But my concern is this. It's like a question. So I'm still looking now at how things will be even after Buhari, because what we have now is that most of these Fulanis, that the repentant Fulanis, as they said, that are being recruited into Nigeria Army, to me, I see it as an underground strategy. Because in future, even after Buhari, people like that will still be like an informant. So that's my first question. Then also on the VAT issue, I really support Lagos State government and the Rivers State government. Sincerely speaking, sir, we need to restructure this country. I've been saying it right before on this webinar that we are not one. The sincerity is not there in this country, and something has to be done for things to be right. There needs to go back to the negotiation table for us to have a better and a new Nigeria that we've all been praying for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We've taken note of those points. I believe you muted yourself, so I think you're done. Thank you so much for those points you raised, Comrade Lukman Ayole. And I want to thank you because I know you always you're so committed to a better Nigeria, and it's always very, very exciting when I see people like you, always making that little effort here and there. People think, I have to do something big, but, when all of us make little efforts here and there in our own spheres of influence, we can actually achieve a lot more together. So I'll be allowing Dr. Oyewole and Barrister Olugbuyiro Akinola to respond to quite a few things you mentioned there. Let's quickly go to Jibowen. Comrade Jibowen, just unmute yourself. And if there's any other, just raise your hand and ask.
Good evening, sir. Yeah, I really appreciate the guest speakers of today, and probably the conversation has been so engaging, and probably it's something that has been put in my mind for the last 1 week. Especially, we understand what has been happening in the northern part. How can you destroy maybe some let me say the infrastructure that we generating VAT for the country, and now you want to earn from those states that encourages the situation of maybe some people are consuming beer and they are making VAT on it. So actually I'm here to show solidarity with Rivers State and Lagos State, and I think Ogun State. Just of recent, I think they are fully in support of taking part, within themselves. So I don't think the federal government has any right to take VAT, in as much that there is a kind of favoritism and nepotism, which we know that the situation of the country now, the all situation favors not. So for now, I think even in the future, they should allow states, which they know that if there's anybody that wants to become governor, you should know how to work hard to generate more income for your state, so that your state can be one of the top states, so that you can be able to develop yourself. But it will be a kind of aberration for federal government to collect from Lagos State and Rivers State to develop Gombe, to develop Nasarawa, even to develop Ekiti. So I'm an Ekiti man, but I will have to say the fact. So if a state government wants to develop the state, you should map out strategy to develop its own state through VAT or through other means. So I shall submit for now. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Comrade Jibo, and that was really, really deep. So I think Miss Oluwaseun Abinton was making a few points earlier on the. Do you want to unmute to say something? Oh, okay. Oluwaseun Abinton. Okay, so I'm just going to go straight to DSG2. I believe he's raising up his hand, Comrade Kenny. So just unmute and let's have your perspective.
Good evening, sirs. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yes, I want to appreciate our earlier speakers. And just quickly, my question is, can we, I think it was Dr. Olu who made mention of, or who was against the Fulanis coming to the West to institute or to constitute their traditional, what do they call it, emirship. Like, I mean, calling their leaders emir, blah, 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 blah. So as against what we have, we do not have the same situation in the North. I mean, our Yoruba people constituting, coordinating themselves and calling them kings or obas in the North. But then, can we also look at it in this perspective, that allowing them to form association, and you see, there is an honor associated with that name, Hemia, in the North. When an Hemia in the North says yes, the subjects usually do not say no. So bringing it now down to them constituting their emirship in the South, I feel that, number one, yes, there is power in association. And when you allow people to gather, when you allow them to stay united, they become a force to reckon with. But then, can we also see it from this perspective that it is also an avenue for them to coordinate themselves? When a Fulani person misbehaves, it becomes very easy for the state government or for the constituent leadership to call the association to order. So that is in my opinion. So I feel that I am in support of them coming here, to coordinate themselves. I believe in coordination. I also know that there is strength that can be against, the owners of the land. It can be against them, because when you allow them to be coordinated, the same thing wanted to happen in Lagos. During the last election, even the 2015 election, we had the Igbos. They wanted to come out in one voice, but they were decimated by the owners of the land. You see, for me, this is our land, and there is no way we will not always have that upper hand, above them. Just like them in the North, there is, regardless of how coordinated we are, even in the North, they will always have the upper hand. Then let's now come to the area of that. I feel that I am in support of what the Rivers State is doing and what the Lagos State government is doing. But then, some of these things, some of these items on the explicit list empower the federal government, economically, financially, and, in some of other aspects that we cannot even, we may not love to mention here. But I also think that some of these items also are part of the things that unite our nation. Yes. And when you look at it very well, you see that some of these things, when they are collected, there is a way all these things are being shared among the state government, the federal government, and all of those. But then, let me say clearly that I'm in support of the comments of the governor of Rivers State, that state government also, this issue will make our governors stay alert to their responsibilities. Whoever wants to become governor should come up with workable plans. You cannot want to become governor because you are rich. you must want to become a governor because you have an idea. So all these issues, I am seriously interested in them, and I like the fact that they are coming up at this critical time, in the history of our nation. So we are all buckling down our shoes now. And whoever wants to be leaders now will know that he must be a thinker. So that is my joy, and that is my interest in all of these things, that they will now rise to the occasion. Enough of using the Lagos State Fund to finance Nasarawa, enough of using the River State Fund to finance Kano. There was an issue that came up until yesterday. I think, yes, I listened to it, that the government, has now established or wanted to establish naval base in Kano. And people were like, is there any riverine, is there any river, is there any seaport in Kano that warrants all those things? And, it's a complex nation. So I just pray that we get through this phase very soon, once and for all. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just, it's been a very wonderful webinar thus far, and I'm going to be, as much as I'm tempted to, it's like it's getting more and more. But as much as I want to actually have us dig deeper into quite a lot of these things, I believe we must call it a day. This is 2 minutes past 8. We're 2 minutes past our time. So I'm going to just give Barrister Oyewole Akinola 2 minutes. Not more than strictly 2 minutes to make his closing point. I want to thank Dr. Oyewole, and then we're going to call on our Secretary General to give the vote of thanks. But I want to thank all of you who have joined. Comrade Jide Steve Ayodele, all the way from Liberia. Thanks for joining us. Miss Oluwatosin Adepoju of Osun State Broadcasting Service. Thanks for joining us. And Oluwashinola Binton, Comrade Lukman Ayole, Comrade Jibo, thank you so much for joining us. Uchendu Okole. We've never had this person talk at our webinars, but I keep saying the name every time. So I just want to appreciate all of you for making it a night, so to say. Of course, next Sunday we're again with another very important. It's something you don't want to miss, So, but let me just go. So, Prof. Barrister Oyewole Akinola, just strictly 2 minutes to cap your points, and then we call on the segment to give the vote of thanks.
I want to thank the convener again before my closure statement. And the issue is simple. In reaction to what now my friend just talked about, that visitors are welcome here and that they need an association to organize themselves. We are not against that. You don't need a traditional institution to be organized in another place in a foreign land. Put yourself under association. Put a constitution for yourself. Have a president or chairman of the Fulanis in Lagos. But immediately you are establishing a traditional institution and doing a turbaning a specific figure as an emir of the Fulani within another man's territory. Then there is dual authority. There is dual obedience. When your people are wrong within the customary law of the land where they stay, the question is, do they obey the customary law of the people of the land or obey the emirate that has been turbaned in that foreign land? That is the question. And when there is conflict between these two, who should override each other within these two systems that you are setting up? For me, setting up a traditional institution of Fulani in the entirely foreign enclave to Fulani is breeding grounds for crisis, for conflict, for war. And we must act. It's not that by our inactions, we are preparing war. War does not just come because we don't wish it to come. But when we fail to do the needful by calling the stakeholders that these people are not supposed to be here, these people are not supposed to establish this kind of customary authority within another man's territory on time so that it can be nipped on board. Look at what has happened in Edo State, in Benin City. It was nipped on board. They were about combining a sultan in Benin City about a few weeks ago. So, but the state government came in, everybody put their foot on ground that will not take place in Edo State. So that should be encouraged in every other state. But it amused me when a candidate in Lagos who won the vote of electorate will go to an emir of Fulani palace within Lagos and ask and solicit for votes and blessing. So these things they are awkward and they lead to future crisis. We are precipitating future crisis by these actions of ours. That is one. Then two, on the VAT issue, I think is the beginning of the journey to physical federalism. And I can say, with what I've read and with what I've seen, that the government, it's too late in the day for the federal government or FRS to turn back of federalism. It has to round up. Yeah, it has, and we just go from there to another thing. As time comes, we'll be seeing very new things that people, and that is one thing we have not done really. Many of us have not gone to court to challenge aspect of the Constitution. That was the thing we need to give to Chief Gani. He challenged a lot of the things in the Constitution, at least about 3 major issues. The liberalization of registration of political party is about Gani Fawemi. The creating space for civil servants to participate in political process and voting for civil servants. It was by Gani and many other things that he did. So it's a challenge for people like me, it's a challenge for all of us that we have to go back to the courtroom. We can still win some battle before the major battle. So that is just the way I'm going to close today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're always a class act, Barrister Oyewole Akinola. Thank you so much. You're a man who speaks your mind. Even if everybody disagrees with you, you still manage to speak. And like I said, you and I know it, 70% of the time I disagree with your views, but I respect the fact that you're not driven by pecuniary reasons. Some people are just against government because they've lost out. Some have brought this government and they're trying to save their skin because people are now holding them responsible. So they're trying all kinds of tricks to distance themselves, and all this. But I know that genuinely you feel that passion that, you know what, things cannot continue this way. We really appreciate you, Barrister Oyewole Akinola. We'll be bringing you back again very, very soon. Can I call on our Secretary General to do the vote of thanks? And that will be the end of this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Convener. I want to sincerely appreciate Barrister Oyewole Akinola for his time, for how well he was able to deal with the topic under discussion, and for learning new things from his presentation. We sincerely appreciate you, sir. And at the same time, I want to appreciate our great psychiatrist, Dr. ADEOYE Oyewole, who is always willing and available, to be a partner on this webinar session. We sincerely appreciate you, sir. And I will continue to learn from you. We continue to get new taste from your scope of intelligence and from your scope of view. But at the same time, in my closing remark, I just want to say that our leaders should always live up to the true expectation in which they sought to a constitution in our country, not to allow sentiment, not to allow ethnicity, not to allow bigotry, and not to allow any form of affiliation, to jeopardize and override their sense of objectivity. That is what everybody has sworn to as leaders, and they must at every point in time live up to that expectation. Ethnicity should not override their national interest. I should not override issues that is going to promote a collective transformation, a collective growth as a nation. I want to sincerely appreciate all our in-house members. I appreciate all our audience on the social media who have consistently been joining us on this webinar. We are optimistic and we are sure that eventually we are going to get Nigeria on a good path of progress and a good path of transformation. Thank you and God bless you all. I wish you all a wonderful new week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. See you again 6 o'clock next week, Sunday. God bless you. Bye for now.